we talked at the beginning about how it was 10 years ago. Why don't we try and predict what it's going to be like in sort of 5-10 years? In terms of where you think an actual, people talk about personalised media all the time and this my media thing, and we know that's going to mean lots of devices in the home and mobile and all the rest of it. I'm sure, and I'm sure that's true. I mean, take your own view. How much more development, how much more sophisticated is the T&M business going to be 10 years from now? So Frank,
one of the things that I think will be a significant challenge for T&M suppliers is the mobility of services. Today we've talked a lot about test and measurement in relatively fixed network. The equipment is where it is, and you're able to access it through a variety of different mechanisms, get the information, process it, put it in front of a user. When we have the day of moving mobile services, services perhaps more than voice, we see voice services today that are somewhat mobile, calls that follow you around and so forth, but when that shows up with video, shows up on an appliance, a mobile appliance of some sort, and being able to recreate the customer's experience, the quality of experience at that appliance, I think will be quite a challenge because of the mobility involved and the disconnection, the physical disconnection from the network. So those are some of the things that test and measurement has to step up and begin to understand how that will play out.
Patrick?
In my end, I mean, it's the complexity, new standards, new signals. I think we're going to see at the moment on satellite there is basically 2 standards. We know there's a Chinese coming, there's a third. 10 years time, I think there'll probably be 5 or 6 different standards, complexity, not compatible with the other. Same on terrestrial signals, there is 4 world standards, there's a 5th one with DVB-T2. Cable the same, so the complexity is going to be much greater, and also people is going to expect a much slicker service. They're going to expect a provider to provide a service which is 100% of the time.
Again, the UK is quite a good melting pot where we have DVB-T2 being rolled out on an operational level. So there's a lot of activity at the moment on DVB-T2 testing. And again, the idea to make it more acceptable and to make it a commercial reality, the products that will need to support T2 need to be at a much more affordable level. If they continue, if it's more complex and the cost goes up, in reality, people will not adopt it. So, yes, it may well provide high-definition television, but if the set-top box is going to be outside their price range, it will fall. So it's creating affordable solutions for this newer, more complex technologies. So that's the key thing. It's like we said, it's squaring the circle, trying to keep the cost down, but at the same time...
That's always been the issue from day one. I mean, the whole digitalisation of terrestrial signals is driven by politicians to free up the bandwidth to get more licence fees, and then the broadcaster wants more content, better content. It's just driven by this classical thing. I mean, I remember in my native Sweden in the 70s, we had one channel on VHF, and they were going to introduce channel TV2 on UHF, and we had a set-top box, which was a UHF to VHF converter. So it has existed, and I think in the future there will be more and more complex things coming along, and that's good for the industry.
Darren, I mean, 3D TV, for example, are you looking forward to?
3D TV. At the end of the day, it's content, it's traffic. So like a lot of these things, it's going to be IPTV based. Primarily, delivering it to a handset, to a TV, or through a set-top box. So, we can test it that way. To go back to Frank's point about, being able to test mobile devices anywhere, we've seen a huge growth in the demand for testing wireless service, out and about, as a consumer would expect to receive this. But what we then sort of found was that the handsets themselves were actually quite lacking and at fault a lot of the time, as opposed to the service being delivered. And since over the last sort of year or so, there's been actually been a steep rise in the amount of handset testing that actually goes on now before they're sort of deployed.
So sort of quality control at the component.
Exactly. Whereas, to the end user, my service isn't working. I don't care if it's the handset or the signal is there. It's not working for them. So, big sort of growth area there as well.
What we see is some big growth coming down is in interactive applications that not only is it you're concerned about the video, but the interactivity you have with that video, whether it's interactive ads, whether it's not simply just VOD, but something more sophisticated. And some of these things, we're not even sure where they're going, but I know the cable companies in North America are now already deploying True Two-Way. They're using very little of what the capabilities are with True Two-Way, but now the challenge becomes is that's part of the service. And we actually have one of the only monitoring systems for True Two-Way and BFIS because we have some history in interactive applications, so we're able to address those fairly quickly. But still, we see that being a big challenge, as well as I think that the 3D and will be interesting for us. But the other one I know for the video operators that they see as I know it's a challenge or trying to understand is getting the video content directly from the web. And so instead of going to one provider to get everything, you can just click on a site and get it, and it's just as good as quality. And for us, we see it as a challenge is how do we address that market? How do we provide solutions to that market? Because it's a little different product mix than we have today.
Yeah, I mean, people talk very casually about, oh, well, web TV is the next thing, and sort of this year is going to be or next year certainly, the year where you can go and buy in retail some kind of box that will jump from your PC to your television. But then we all know that the web's absolutely full of junk, the kind of stuff that we probably don't want infecting our computers. So why would we want it infecting our televisions?
I think this will be a big challenge for the operators because again it comes the consumers buying a service, so they don't really care where it comes from. Okay, so if they're trying to access internet content on their TV, but there's a problem on the internet that the operator, the provider has no control over, then these guys are going to be taking the complaints as to, hey, I can't access this on the set-top box. They see it as being part of the cable company or the telco coming through the TV. So that is a big challenge that, that these guys are going to have to try and sort out.